this is MMO basics. What is an MMO? An MMO is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. They're standardized by a few separate basic concepts that kind of separate them from the rest of gaming titles. The most notable would be the use of skill sets down here in place of like character movement versus attack speed on an enemy. Like if an enemy attacks you, you don't move out of the way so much as you just attack back normally. Automatically. You don't have really any control over that. But such things as you use skills in a set order. There's a whole lot to cover, and Michael needs to break it down. Where to start? So start with the most basic, just character, I guess basics. So you yourself is one player in a world of many. You can see everybody that has a blue name here is known as a PC or a player character. They're characters that are controlled by other people somewhere else within the world. If you see someone like this with a green name, that is what is known as an NPC or a non-player character. Non-player characters are controlled by no one. They're programmed into the system by the programmers of the game, developers who have made the system. The next thing I want to sit down and break down is the basic UI elements of an MMO. UI stands for user interface, and it's everything you see that's on the screen. So I'm using Final Fantasy XIV as the basis for this setup. This happens to be one of my favorite games. It's a very easy game to learn, to process, and master. It does take a little while to master, but it does not have a steep learning curve on it. So we will take So right here in this right hand corner is the user map. It's the mini map. It's smaller than the actual map. If I hit square, it'll bring up the actual map. The actual map can show you larger portions of areas. The mini map will show you things like where you need to be, where you need to go. Just at a quick glance. It's a bit easier to use for like if you're in an area where a quest is needed. Next below the map is your quest objectives. I only have 2 open quests. You're allowed to have as many as you want. You turn them on, turn them off. I keep most of mine turned off because I like to keep things as clear as possible. Below that over here, every game's different. This game shows you your inventory. This is how much inventory space I've taken up versus how much I have open. And this is the condition of the gear I'm wearing. Gear is a character's equipment, what they're wearing. So you got armor, there's all kinds of different pieces of armor. In this game there's weapons. Weapons will change your class as well. Class being the type of character you have. There's a lot to that. I'm going to get more into that in a short bit. I'm going to start breaking down pieces of gear. Would be like your headgear, your body, your arms, your waist, your legs, your feet, and then just like different accessories such as earrings, necklaces, rings, things like that. Down here in this game is called Soul Crystal. It defines your job. Your job is again your class. If you look over here, this is the character screen. If you look over here, there's different stats. Every stat has a different purpose. Strength being like the physical attack, your dexterity being the speed of your attack. Vitality would be like your health, your intelligence being the damage your magic does, your mind being the amount you heal for if you're healing, and piety. In this game, piety is how much mana points you have, which I would get to in just a minute. We'll come back to stats as we go. Stats do become extremely important. So right here, this is my hotbar. This is the set for quick access to skills that I need. These are not all the skills that my character knows. These are just the ones that I'm most likely to use in a fight. Such as for the character that I am, which is a black mage, would be like Fire 3. For a massive burst of Fire 1. Ice. How this class works is fire does damage and ice does a lot of healing. Someone is irritating me, so I'm going to move to a new location. Hotbars are incredibly important because they are necessary to kind of shorten out your skill list. I can now show you my skill list is actually quite comprehensive. This is the normal skill list for my class, and then my job skills, which are over here with the expansion. You see this is level 60, the expansion is going to pop up to level 70, so it'll probably add 5 to 10 more skills, which means that this is going to get larger and more useful. But as you can see, quick access, I do not have every skill. Like convert, I have right here, then like freeze, I do not have down here. So again, it's just the skills that I'm most likely to use. Below that, there are these 3 bars. Each of these bars do something different, something unique. So we take something like this green bar here. You see where my mouse is over HP. HP stands for health points and is the total health of your character. When this hits 0, you die. You do not want that to hit 0. Generally, for this particular class, you're going to have no control, or not a lot of control over that. Just try to dodge attacks, certain sets of attacks. Someone over here is playing dead. I just was not expecting that. Side HP is MP. MP stands for mana points. Abilities for this particular character cost mana, and this is how much mana I have before it equals 0. And if you see these blue numbers right here, these are how much each ability costs, how many mana points. So like Fire 3, 17 and 68. So I can only use, what, about 6 Fire 3s before I'm completely out of mana. This last one's TP. This is technical points. Technical points affect things like my ability to sprint, just to move faster. For this character, but for other characters, for melee-based characters, characters that attack up close and personal, TP actually is what they use instead of mana. They use TP. Instead of MP, they use TP over here to attack. And then below that is my experience bar. It's how many points I have till I level up. And you gain points for things such as killing enemies, running dungeons. There's all kinds of ways to gain points. Now let's go back to character. Okay, so there are 3 major types of classes. This class is a black mage. There's a lot of different classes. My class is a black mage. Over here on this side are all your classes that you can use to fight. These are what levels I have each class, if I've unlocked them. As you can see, only 2 of them are max level, one of them's about to be leveled up. Different classes have different roles. There are three major roles in any MMO game. The exception being Guild Wars 2. We will not talk about Guild Wars 2 right now. It completely went off the charts. The three major roles are DPS, which stands for damage per second. Black Mage is a DPS class. This is a damage class. Your goal is to do as much damage as possible, as fast as possible. Other classes would be like tanks, like my Dark Knight here. Your goal is to pull aggro, enemy attention. You want to make the enemy attack you. You're not going to do a lot of damage to them. You can do more than a healer, but you're going to do less than a damage class. But your goal is to have them attack you as your damage dealers who are kind of weak. They're easily killable. Versus a tank. You want to keep the attention of the enemy so your damage dealers can take the time they need to kill the enemy. The third class would be a healer class, like my scholar here. Healer's goals are exactly what their name implies. You are to heal the teammates. The most important task of a healer would be to heal enemies, or not enemies, tanks. Tanks are very important. If the tank dies, then the enemies are going to turn to your damage dealers, and it will not take them long to kill your damage dealers. More than likely, they will turn to healer first, because healing generates more aggro than most attacks do. In fact, it's easier for a healer to pull an enemy than a tank is. Now, what is aggro? Aggro is, in every game it's got a different name. In this game particularly, it's aggro. I prefer the term aggro because it's generally what it is aggravation. It's the attention of the enemy. The role that draws the most attention is going to be the first thing attacked by the enemy. A tank's job is to hold as much of the aggro as they can. To literally just take as many attacks as they can. The healer will heal them, and then the damage dealer will hit them. If you look in this game, when you attack an enemy, I will kill them. Let's see if I kill this one. Yeah, I did. Okay, there's level 49 enemies in this area. Essentially, the three roles work best in a group setting together. More particularly, I will be going over that in separate episodes. I'll be running all three roles and explaining as I go what they do through dungeons. Okay, fates. I came across one. This helps me explain. Fates are what is known as like a world duty. And essentially it's an event for the world to participate in, for other players to participate in together, to group together to accomplish a goal. In this particular one, it's to kill these enemies, and it'll keep spawning more until this bar below, this bar right here, fills up. So I can go back to my aggro explanation now, because I have increased my level. So as you can see, this red dot right here represents aggro. Red means an enemy is attacking you. Yellow and an arrow will show you whether you're gaining aggro or you're losing aggro. As you gain aggro, it means an enemy is more likely to attack you. They're starting to focus more on you than on your teammate. A down yellow arrow means they're losing aggro, meaning they're going to attack somebody else that isn't you. then green means they are not focused on you at all. So as you can see, we filled this yellow bar up, or this bar up a little. So we're starting to complete this duty, this fate. I'm going to go ahead and try to complete it, kind of give you a basic concept of combat. So as you can see, I'm using abilities. I am selecting targets, and then I'm using abilities to hit the targets. Now there are different types of abilities for attacking an enemy. Such abilities include basic damage, which is what I'm doing here, and you'll see the numbers appear. This game is purely numbers. So the numbers is the amount of damage based on the enemy's HP. So kind of like a bar right here. The enemies have one of those bars. That bar will appear above their head, kind of like this, and it'll show how much they have till they hit 0. At 0, they die. Now your goal as a damage dealer like this would be to kill the enemy as fast as possible. So basic attacks like this do basic damage. Now seeing something like this is called a proc, and you can see how that's outlined. Proc means you're, how do I define that? Proc means you're basically, you're told to use the ability for some reason or another. In this case, when my Fire 3 pops up, it means it's costing no mana and taking no time to cast. Cast time is, you'll see this little bar that'll appear right here where I'm circling. That's called cast time. That's how long it takes from the time you hit the button to the time it actually uses the spell. And for each ability, it'll be different. On top of that, there are cooldowns. Cooldown's how long it is, so you can use the spell again. Now you can see how this little like white line appears every time you use an ability. That's the cooldown for it. So see how this is going in cooldown right here? Yeah, that's the cooldown is. Now there are abilities. The next ability that I would like to talk about is called dot damage. It's damage over time, DOT or dot. And that is abilities that do very little damage right off the bat, like this Thunder 3. It's only going to do 280. You can see he takes the Thunder icon overset. So you see it right here. This is their buffs and debuffs. You see this is Thunder. So every time it ticks, a tick is a hit. You'll see it go down. He's taking so much damage at every tick. Leads me to my next point, buffs and debuffs. Those are additions and subtractions to your main stats based on abilities. So what that is. A buff would be something that positively affects you. Something that will increase your attack speed, your cast time, things like that. Debuffs would be something that negatively affects you. Something that can stop you from attacking or freeze you in place, does damage to you over time. That would be a debuff. Examples of buffs on this class would be like this ability right here called Mana Wall, which if I use, you'll see it up here, and what it does is it increases my physical damage resistance. What that is that means when I'm hit with an attack that physically connects, so if somebody swings a sword at me, it reduces the amount of damage it'll do, which is the amount of HP down here that it'll take away from you, the amount of health points. A wonderful question to ask would be, what is the point? So the point of an MMO is to level a character, which as you can see my character's max, level 60, and follow the story arc. Some MMOs like World of Warcraft, the story arc is very loose. meaning you won't hit anything that says this is what's happening, this is where you need to be. You have to infer the story from different elements, from different perspectives. Games like this, though, this has an actual story to it. Darkness is trying to take over the world, and the goddess or a crystal of this world has imbued you with light so that you can fight the darkness. Now, it's not completely expanded out the story to finish the where you overbeat darkness, but from the time that I'm making this video, there will be a another expansion coming out on top of this. It'll also add more classes to the game, and it'll add more to the story. I would love to see how the story ends, because there are other Final Fantasy games. I'm a huge fan of the series. They follow through a different story. As I get farther into the series through this game, I will kind of explain things more on that. Final Fantasy games do not have an interconnecting, like, story. They're each their own worlds, their own separate stories, their own characters. This particular world is completely separate from every other game in the series. So if you've never played Final Fantasy 1 or Final Fantasy 9 or Final Fantasy 15, you can turn around and play this game. You will be completely fine. It's its own separate story. Now, the fun thing is, if you have played those other Final Fantasy games, there are a lot of references in this game to other ones. A lot of different, like, just little nuances that are really fun to catch. Little things like companions over here. Not companions. Minions. These are just kind of like little pets that don't really do anything. They're just cute little things that you can have out. This one right here, Minion Alight, is a representation of the very first Final Fantasy game. There were only like 5 characters that could be picked to play as, and this particular one is the warrior. And yeah, it's just a cute little representation of one of the original characters from the very first Final Fantasy game from like 1992. Look how adorable he is. There are other things like Puff of Darkness is a representation of the Cloud of Darkness. The Cloud of Darkness was the final boss in Final Fantasy III. She tried to take over the world using crystals. Crystals are kind of a big motif in Final Fantasy games. Look at how adorable she is. Anyways, so we'll take, okay, so in this game, there are different classes you can play as. And how you switch the class is by switching your weapon. Each weapon represents a different class. I will now switch to the Astrologian class. So what this class is, I just switched to it by switching to a Star Globe. So what this class is it's a healing-based class that has a buff process. It adds buffs to your teammates through a card system. It'll draw random cards out of a deck, and each card does something different. This is actually kind of a really fun class to play, and I'll get more into it when I get to healers. Anyways, where this stops at is the basics of an MMO, a massively multiplayer online game. These are just the very simplest basics. This is enough to get any person started playing an MMO and to understand what they're doing. You're not really going to get into any advanced concepts into rotations, which are forms of attacks, particular setups, builds, ways to set your characters together, strengths, weaknesses, and classing in your game. This will just allow you to get in and play it to have fun. There's a lot to cover. And I'm trying to cover this as best as I can. If I've forgotten anything, I will go over it in another video. That is all that I will cover for now, though. All I have to say is I will see you later.